All right, y'all, before we start, because some of y'all be tripping, under the advice of counsel, I got to add that the views, thoughts, opinions that are expressed on this podcast are mine and mine alone. They do not represent my employer. All right, let's go.
Because I was like, damn, do we really want to get into this discussion? Because if we get into this discussion right here, y'all.
What's up, y'all? We are back with another episode of Ridgemont Forest Finest, the podcast. And today I got my friend, my homie, one of my original TikTok followers is my boy Drake. What's up, Drake, with Everything Culture Podcast? What's up?
What's happening with y'all? What's happening with you?
I'm here. We're finally here. We're finally here.
I'm back in this great state of Texas.
Because you've been gone for a minute.
Yeah, I was in Seattle for 4 years, the Pacific Northwest. Shout out to my folks over there. You know, I would tell people here at Everything. I'm Texas born and raised. The podcast was born in Houston, Texas, but we raised it in Seattle. But we're back now. And once again, shout out to you. Thank you so much for inviting me to your platform.
We've been trying to do this for a minute.
Yeah. For a minute. For real.
Because you were supposed to come home in June.
True.
Initially.
Uh-huh.
I remember.
Things come up. You know, we had to do some more building and put things together. We decided instead of just purchasing a home, we decided to build a home.
Okay.
So we pushed it out.
And then y'all moved where?
We're in Humble.
Everybody moved. Why y'all all move out north? Like, oh my God. Don't nobody want to come back home.
We love it.
Can you really say Houston? I'm gonna let you make it.
You're Missouri City, so we can say it's the same difference. You know, the same distance.
It's our distance
from each other. Technically, it's 45 minutes.
Man, we're all an hour away from Houston.
There you go.
I get that.
But we all can make it happen. You know, if it's supposed to happen, it will happen.
I got that. So I got you here because when I first found you on TikTok, you were infamous for the CPS stories.
Yes.
And you are a child welfare specialist. I'm just going to call you that. You got a million years of experience in the child welfare system.
Yes, from being a caseworker for a couple years to serving as a guardian ad litem on organizations such as Child Advocates to just being a trainer, bringing in volunteers and training them how to work with children and families in the welfare system. Not only children and families, but the whole system within itself. Mm-hmm. Testifying in court, working with other parties such as teachers, neighbors, family members, and overall serving the best interests of children. And for the past 4 or 5 years, I've been a volunteer myself.
Okay.
So all around, I've been there, and it just stopped there. But my main goal is to educate our community about how to serve our children and families.
Okay, so I brought you here because CPS, foster care, child protective services is something very near and dear to our hearts as educators, right?
Ooh.
We have, I was just explaining this to my daughter the other day. Hey, you got kids sitting to your left and to your right who get on a special bus and go to a shelter, or they're foster kids, and you won't even know that. So it's near and dear to the hearts of educators because so many of our children are children that are in the system. And when it comes to us having to deal with them or knowing how to deal with them, I think it's a pretty big deal. We argue a lot as teachers because you say you're supposed to have a heart for all children, right? Like we are supposed to love children, and sometimes we just don't know the children's situation. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things I've been itching to talk to you about is the whole confidentiality when it comes to who's in the system or who has a case out against them, what's going on in court. We don't know any of this. Teachers are not privy to any of this information. The counselors may know a tad bit, but even they can't share what they know. But we don't know anything that's going on. So let me just let you talk. Let's get into it.
And I'm gonna pull it back. Not only that y'all care so much, is y'all are from the work you're doing working with your kids, but y'all are usually the number one mandated reporter as well.
Absolutely.
It comes from the teachers. We wouldn't be able to really know what's going on in the home because y'all don't know what's happening in the home as well, but y'all see how these children come to school. You see if they're tired. You see if the bruises. Y'all see the neglect and things may happen. So making that call to 1-800-252-5400 is statewide intake. Being a mandate reporter, meaning if you see abuse and neglect or potential risk, you just make the report. You don't have to have all the information. You don't have to do an investigation yourself.
Right.
You just make the report and go forward from there. But
And that's not an option. Let's talk about
correct,
mandated reporting because a little bit, and I kind of talk about this on TikTok a little bit too. With teachers, one of the main things I tell, especially as an English teacher, when we're assigning things like journal prompts and writing prompts and things like that, you better read that stuff that you're grading because I didn't got hit with some paperwork to go to court before because of journals. And you give it a completion grade of 100 and that kid has cried out in that paper. Apparently they told it to you and you ain't say nothing. You gave it 100 and put it in the grade book and gave it back.
Without
reading it because it's, we assign so much stuff and it's like, oh, they did it. Completion 100 and give it out. But yeah, I done had a little situation like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So you gotta be careful. But talk about the importance of mandated. Like let the people, let's talk about newbie teachers. Understand what mandated mean.
Mandated meaning you have to do it. It's not an option. That is exactly what mandate means. It's like it's mandatory. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when you see abuse and neglect, making that phone call or contacting that risk is necessary. Charges can be pressed against you. Mm-hmm. Your certification could be placed online because of that. Mm-hmm. Same thing with me being a volunteer. Those things I'm mandated to do so. For me, working at CPS, at that time, if you're an active CPS worker, there's been times where I've seen abuse and neglect or potential abuse and neglect, mm-hmm. and okay, I got to make that call.
What is potential abuse and neglect? What are some examples of that?
Let's say being yelled at or a kid being pulled or dragged. Sometimes you may feel like, okay, maybe it's just something emergency, but mm-hmm. just to be safe, I'm gonna make the call. One of the situations I talked about before, I talked about this on TikTok, is when it was a guy's day out, mm-hmm. me and all the fellas chilling. And we went to a spot and there was some kids in a car. Okay. It was maybe I want to say 4-year-old little girl. Mm-hmm. And she was tapping on the window trying to get my attention. And I stayed in my truck. I was like, I'm going to wait till somebody comes. Now, all my guys are inside already. But me being who I am and the work that I know, I'm like, this doesn't look right.
Right.
And so I was like, okay. Then when I got out my car, my truck, I looked and I saw it was an infant in the car too, in the baby seat.
Wow.
Oh, that is definitely neglect. I don't know how long the dad or whoever may be inside, mm-hmm. but I made the call, took the license plate down, and 1-800-252 went forward from there. Mm-hmm. You may be on hold for a little bit, mm-hmm. or I know it's an option to make a report online now too, mm-hmm. but I just made a report and I went inside. When I went inside, I was in line with my buddies, and then I saw like the little girl came in and get her dad. Her dad was sitting at a table with the rest of his pals, drinking beers and doing whatnot. Told mm-hmm. her get back in car and you watch your little brother.
Oh. Okay.
So those, not only it was risk, mm-hmm. no telling what else may be happening mm-hmm. at home, but that's going to kick the investigation off right there. Okay. Now, for protection of me and my friends, I could have been like superhero, get involved, mm-hmm. go watch your kids, but we have to pay attention to the environment. There was alcohol involved, mm-hmm. once again, and I talked, definitely this is in Deerbrook, Texas, where I was at the moment. Mm. These are white men mm-hmm. all together. Me and all my friends are black and mm-hmm. Latin or Hispanic. And this could have been a heavy altercation right there.
Absolutely.
Because there was no big understanding when it comes to that, when it comes to child abuse and neglect. Mm-hmm. And you can't tell every parent how to raise their children at times because we know how the times we living in right now. So my responsibility was to do that at minimum was to make that report.
So when you say something like pulling, so if I'm out and my daughter say something slick and that's potential?
Somebody see it a certain way.
Okay.
I joked when I first was working at CPS, and it's you can tell what's abuse and neglect, but so many things could be an abuse and neglect. Mm-hmm. Emotional abuse is a big part of it as well. Mm-hmm. When people posting how they discipline their children online. Oh, man.
That's so embarrassing and humiliating.
That's emotional abuse.
That's crazy.
I've done a video talking about the details of the different type of abuse and neglect. Mm-hmm. Like to the book, if you can Google these things, you can go to the Department of Family Protective Services, the dfes.texas.us, and look at the exact what abuse and neglect is. Mm-hmm. And posting online how you redirect your children is abuse. Mm-hmm. Like, especially if they feel like it's emotional abuse.
Right, absolutely.
And I tell people all the time, emotional abuse is the worst type of abuse to work with. Because you can see a scar, you mm-hmm. can see a bruise, mm-hmm. you can't see a feeling hurt at time. Because all kids doesn't cry. Mm-hmm. All kids do not respond to emotional trauma like others.
Mhm.
So when we see these things, that we have to make that report. I made numerous reports online,
Mhm.
and I've had people reach out to me directly in my DMs. Can you take this video down? Can you do this? No. Like,
Wow, they hurt. Hit dogs.
oh, but it's them. Like, and it's like, and
Wow.
I've had people from TikTok on IG, and my responsibility is like, hey, if I contact these folks or if I respond to your video,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to show people this what abuse and neglect look like.
Right.
I have people numerous times, and I worry about putting out my CPS stories
Mhm.
because I never wanted to be used to assist abuse and neglect.
Mm.
I've
Okay.
had someone reach out recently about, marijuana use, and I was
Mhm.
like, I understand being in Seattle is different ways, and so I talk about use, abuse, and addiction
Mhm.
when it comes down to parenting, and it gets to the point if your children are doing well, thriving, hey, CPS can say it, just marijuana is not being a reason to remove.
Okay.
But if other things are happening in the home
Mhm.
and you're using alcohol, marijuana, anything else,
Mhm.
that's a concern.
Yeah.
And when people are like, well, how do you get this? How do you get out of that? I think you're missing my point when I'm trying to tell you.
They're trying to wiggle out of it.
Correct.
No, we need to address it.
Yes, and I'm like, so, and that worries me
Mhm.
because I don't want people thinking like, oh, this is how I can cheat my casework.
Mm.
But the thing is, let's focus on the children.
Okay.
So when we think about being just people in a community,
Mhm.
and the reason why I do my CPS stories or my child welfare stories, and I talk about educating people as a community, what do we do as for child abuse and neglect?
Mhm.
Outside of CPS, what do we do?
Nothing. What do we do?
And if we come up with an idea, suggestion, like I'm all for it.
Mhm.
I've stepped in. Once again, I've seen kids walk down the street. I step in and help out, and I contacted help kids find their way home. I come from that type of childhood and upbringing that, we have that close knit community.
Right.
That my parents, everybody know everybody.
The village, but the
The
village
village.
ain't villaging no more. Because nobody wants you to tell their children anything. But that's a whole nother conversation.
But that's why the government come
That's
together,
why the
and that's why
government
you have
come in.
CPS. And remember, CPS was created in the 1980s, in the mid 1980s. CPS
During the
ain't been
what?
around that long.
What was going on during that time?
Crack.
Okay.
you know?
All right. Okay. But anyway, we won't go there. We'll get because we can get there, but we're not gonna do it today. So let me ask you this. What is the difference? And I know you say everything is culture, right?
Correct.
And we can place that here too.
Always.
Because what is considered discipline and what is considered abuse? Now,
Ooh,
I
great
know
question.
years ago, I'm not saying this now, teachers, don't come for me. They would tell, the school nurses would say, if there are no bruises, it is not abuse. If you get whooped with a belt, little kid come to school and they're upset, what's wrong? Mama whooped me with a belt this morning because I didn't do my homework or something, whatever, right? And the nurse looks at the child, there's no bruises, no marks, no welts, can't do anything.
So things are always changing. People always pay attention to your laws and what you're voting for and what's being passed. But one of the biggest difference between abuse and discipline is, you said it right there. Why are they being spanked, or why are they even being put in timeout in the first place? If that child says like, "Oh, I was spanked," and when you ask that child why, I don't know. If you ask a parent, like, I can't remember, I was just upset. I'm just telling you things that was
these are legit answers that people are giving you.
Y'all just don't understand. I tell
Interesting.
people, if you want to hear drama and the wildest stuff, go to your local family law court, especially when they're holding, the days they have CPS cases, and just sit back in the back of the court and listen. You pay for the show, you pay taxes, right?
That's crazy.
And you will hear some of what is going on in this world.
That's crazy.
And that's why, once again, I do what I do, because people are like, nobody's doing that. It's happening way more than you think.
You made a point earlier before. This is why I love talking off the mic, but I don't, because I forget things and I feel like, dang, that's something that we should have addressed. But you said people are always coming for the social worker and as them, being the lowest person on the totem pole.
Right.
And I made the comparison. I say, yeah, it's just like that with teachers, and when it's a systemic thing.
Yes.
So talk about that, because we hear all the time about kids with abuse cases on the news, and somebody I watched on TikTok that this lady had 19 open cases, or 19 cases with CPS. 2 or 3 of them were open. the kids were removed. It was like 7 or 8 kids somewhere in Florida.
We'll see. Moving too fast. So like
What,
put a pin right there,
Okay.
okay? Because you can see my stress getting high.
Okay.
So let's go back when we're talking about discipline. Another thing in discipline is age appropriate as well.
Okay. All right.
Okay, size, age appropriate, all those things. Okay, if you put a 5-year-old in timeout for 15 minutes straight, that could be abuse and neglect. Because once again, these are things. Well, they need to know why they're there, and for 15 minutes for that age, usually they say if you're there at 5 years old and they're in there straight, it's 5 minutes. 6-year-old, 6 minutes. Now, if they break it,
interesting,
it goes back into it. Same thing as I've seen things like this isn't a book. I remember, and I don't agree with all these things too, but this
is just what it is.
That if a child, I used to step on the back of my shoes as a kid. Okay, and this was written down. And I'm like, oh, I used to do this. And I'm reading this in my training. Or you go to 40 hours, 3 months of training, 90 hours, 90 days of training. Basic skills and development training as a CPS worker. And I had numerous trainings after that. But while I was in my basic skills and development training, they would say if a parent, they give you multiple choice. Kid is stepping on the back of their shoes. And one of the options was, would it be neglect or abuse if the parent have the child wear their shoes in their hand? And I was like, that's no big deal. That's considered abuse and neglect as well. That's emotional abuse. And I was like, huh. And once again, you don't think any big deal of it, but when you see it on a major and a severe level, it's how it can go. But jumping to the point that we pin about the caseworker being the lowest man on the totem pole. The caseworker has, in my opinion, has the most responsibility as far as action and movement. And unfortunately, they have the least amount of power as well. So there's 4 to 5 different types. So you have the Department of Family Protective Services. And between the Department of Family Protective Services, you have Child Protective Services and you have Adult Protective Services. Under Child Protective Services, you have investigations, you have family-based safety services, you have conservatorship, what I used to do, that's following when kids are in foster care, been removed from their parents, and the custody has been shifted where the state has temporary managed conservatorship of the children, and the parents right now in possessory, they still have custody, but it's been limited, restricted at the moment. Okay. And so finally you have adoption prep. So when we get into those points where me being a conservatorship worker, it was mighty stressful because you're thrown into it. You're thrown into it and you have a lot of responsibility. I was given when I first graduated from basic skill development training, I think I received 18 cases. Wow. And 18 cases are 18 children. So that's how I worked this in conservatorship. And I was up to 31 within the next 2 to 3 months. Okay. Wow. And that's low, by the way.
Right. Oh, I know.
That I get teased for even bringing that up. They're like, that's it? Think about that.
I used to be married to a caseworker.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
We got to talk. You okay?
Ooh, no, I'm not okay. I feel like he owed me reparations or something.
And that's
the state owed me reparations.
But that goes back to that, too. It's an extremely stressful job. And I'm like, you need therapy just by being a caseworker. And when I was dating my wife at the moment, I used to have to tell her, like, hey, when I come home, I need like an hour or two.
Yeah, decompression.
Seriously.
Yeah.
You go cry in the car.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to certain decisions you make, even though you feel like this is not in the best interest of the children, you have a supervisor, you have a program director, and then you have the judge. Even before above the program director, you have a program what's called the area director, and it goes up and up to state levels and things of that nature. But the judge make the final decision at the end of the day. The caseworkers, we just make recommendations that's been told by, like we gather all this information, we share it with our supervisor. Our supervisor make sure it's a program director, depending on how extreme it may come up to. Really, that's a high responsibility as well too. Yeah. But the caseworker, we don't get paid a lot.
Not at all.
When I graduated from college, I was getting paid like 36.
I think he started out at 30, and we was like, yes, 30,000. Sheesh.
Woo. And then you have to use your own vehicle.
Yeah,
I'm talking about driving around. No, you make it home late, and it's just a high level of stress. And these kids cry to you. You get cussed out. You get yelled at by the attorneys, the judges, the parents, the family members. The kids run away. You got to drop what you're doing. Like the caseworkers, even when I left CPS, once again, I moved on to other things. But they start to the point, if one of your kids run away and they're in, like say, and they come back, you have to put them in a temporary placement. at times you have to pick them up in the morning and keep them with you all throughout until you find them another home. Or if you can't find them a home placement, guess what you have to do? You get to sleep with them at the office, stay with them. You can't even go home to your family.
Man, I'm having some
I know.
moments of PTSD right now because it makes me think of, I'll never forget, and I know my ex-husband is probably not listening to this, but he had this case one time. I think she was like 16 or 17 years old, and they nicknamed her Platinum Plus because she had like some platinum hair or whatever. But she was a runaway. She often ran away from every place that they put her in. But she unfortunately was living life on the street, if you get my drift.
No, I got you.
And so every time she would run away or disappear, he would have to go try to find her, locate her, and bring her back. And take her to the hospital because things had happened to her. Sit with her, sleep with her at the hospital, sit with her, sleep with her at the office. And I would be like, you ain't at that office, but like, no, he was at the office of Platinum Plus. And I will never forget one night, the phone rang late and they found that baby dead. And man, I think that just crushed him. And he was hurt for the moment. And then seemed like the next day it was like, well, I got another case. And I'm like, whoa, we need to process this. He's like, I can't. Like, it's another Platinum Plus coming up right behind. And this is crazy to me. Yeah. This is crazy. And even like you said, the going to get them and staying with them. Home visits, the gas, the mileage on the car, waiting a whole nother month or 2 months for your reimbursement.
Transporting them.
Transporting them. Yes.
Being in court all day. That's the thing. You can be in court all day. You be in court 3 to 5 times a day. And it's not enough time right now. That's why we do a series about it, breaking it down. And I bring other caseworkers and other attorneys and people on that's gone through this experience. And going back to the teachers, y'all are some of the best people to give us advice. I say coming in, and once again, I'm talking as not only as a caseworker, but also as a guardian ad litem and a volunteer. The teacher is going to have much more contact. And unfortunately, a lot of these kids, when they're in different placements, it's like with Platinum Plus. Think how many different high schools Platinum Plus may have been. Right. And in a year. And I hate calling it Platinum Plus. And I hate saying cases. I always say children and families, and I try to get them. I always change the name, by the way, when I tell my experiences. But it's to the point. These are people. These are, God
babies.
Exactly. And God rest that child's soul. But sooner or later, that young man or woman is going to become an adult. Yeah. That baby is going to become an adult. I had one of my 10-year-olds call me like right when I got back and was like, hey, my grandmother gave me information. I would like to reach out. And he's 20 now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm old. And it's like, he was talking about college because once you become a ward of the state, you get free tuition for the rest of your life. But a lot of these kids don't know
it. And I found that out to the highest degree. Like I didn't know that. We went on a field trip to a group home in the Liverpool area. It was a beautiful area.
Kids Carter?
Is
that Kids Carter? Not Kids Carter. Oh my gosh, it's
in my email because we did a whole field trip there, and it's on land. They got a lake. It's a beautiful facility. I hate to say facility, but it's a beautiful place. Residential home. Is that what it's called? RTC.
Residential
Treatment Center. Yeah. And so she was talking to the teachers, explaining to us, like everybody here, if you're a ward of the state, they can go get a doctorate degree, and it's on the state. And I was like,
change your mind, come back and get it again.
And she said, it doesn't matter. Like, and I did not know, not to say that that's a perk or anything, but again, it's the education that's important.
Because what you've been through.
Well, of course.
And get free tuition, and they will help out with payment. But a lot of these, when they get out, they want to be done with it. Yeah. They want to go back. Once again, I'm a little bit stronger for the kids. I still mentor. I'll be damn. Like, hey, if you go be around, you've been through this in your life. You might as well, you go get the perks out of it. Right. And I'm still mentoring 3-4 kids. One especially, you man, I'm going to stay on you until you get this degree. I saw you graduate from high school. One of my most rewarding moments. I know what you've been through in your life. I know you're still going through because I'm the closest thing he has to family. He tries to go back to family. Don't have that. And it's hard seeing, young black people, young black man, and not having those things. So when they have that perk, definitely. Absolutely. Because when they get out, where are they going to go? Nowhere. They don't have the mama. They don't have the daddy. No. A lot of them go back to their mother and a father, and guess what? They hurt them again. Not saying that happens all the time, but it's happened every single time I know of. Right. And they never learn stability. So how do we expect them to go out and be
productive citizens.
And then they may have a child, and then they have that child at an early age without stability, and then CPS get involved.
So is the child automatically a ward of the state? If you're
when they come into care and the parents are not granted full custody back to them, yes, they become ward of the state. That's
the children of the babies.
Oh, you talking about
so like if the teenager that's a ward of the state gets pregnant while in state custody.
It depends if the state takes that child from that. Say, I know how much time we got, but I've had situations like that.
Let me hear something.
Which it was a 15-year-old girl. She got brought into care because of the abuse she was receiving from her mother.
Mm-hmm.
She had a child, and she wasn't able to care for her child, and that child ended up becoming in care as well. My coworker was her guardian ad litem for the 15, 16-year-old. I was the guardian ad litem for the baby.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Mr. Drake, I do my job.
Mm-hmm.
You get my task in front of me when I'm here to represent the best interests of the child. I represent the best interests of the child, not the children. Okay? He does his job. I do my job. And it was at that point that at that moment we were trying to we placed him. We got to the point we were able to place him in the same foster home.
Oh, that's good.
That was awesome, right?
That's rare, huh?
At that time it was. At that time it was. And shout out to that foster mother at that time. But everything didn't work out like we wanted to work out. Once again, that's to be continued. Oh goodness, it was at a point where that foster mother was a Black woman, Black children, and she was helping her kids get a licensing and everything that made, and it was work because I was like, I didn't want to, because we had family that want to take care of that baby, but the older 16, she had other behavior, so she turned 17. We reunified. We're trying to close both cases at the same time. I was like, I'm working with everybody because this is the mother. Usually the mother is the best contact, and after the parent or the parents, it's going to be a family member.
Okay.
We had a family member. That family member was much more stable than this mother. And the mother had some behavior issues, but she had a foster parent as support, and we'll use the foster parent that was the parent of the child as a support. Everything worked together is fine.
Okay.
So how things worked, the mother, we closed both cases. The mother case was closed. We weren't going to return her back to her mom.
Right.
She's 17 now. She's a school. We're getting her GED, blah, 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 blah. We had everything together. As long as she stayed with this foster parent until she becomes stable, we're fine with giving, family unification to the mother.
Okay.
That was the ordeal.
The plan.
Well, Mama moved too fast. The ink wasn't dry yet. Within the Friday, we closed, court submitted. A mother fled, wrote this letter, F the foster parent, this, and that. I got my baby. I'm done. Blah, blah, blah.
Fled with the baby.
Okay. Ink wasn't dry. Because it was on a Friday. Everything was submitted to the court.
Oh, Lord.
So guess what?
Snatch him back.
We had to put the baby and place him back with that auntie. And yeah, we closed the case and moved on from there.
Because the other girl's case was closed.
Her case was closed.
So we done with you. But now,
yeah.
Are we done with you because you're 17?
Oh, no, the thing was, we'll train her as a parent.
Yeah.
So you have a year to a year and a half, usually how cases are open. That's the duration of the case. Usually now they can do something like they'll start the trial and they keep resetting it. I see what that's needed at times. It's a headache a lot, but because you got to find permanency.
Right.
But the thing was, she was at that point. That's why we was making the decision. And for her doing that, she showed her true self. She quit, she fled, and she went back to like what Platinum Plus was doing. And that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And it was a video that went viral last year or so. I actually had the judge on that was in that viral video about when a case aide, now it was a CPS employee, but it wasn't a case worker, that told a child that was here in Harris County that go sell yourself if you want to get something to eat.
Oh, I heard about that.
Yeah, so that happens. That once again, that was a case aide. That was just a person who transported children. That wasn't a case worker that said it. Unfortunately, these things are real.
Yeah.
And it's certain centers and residential treatment centers. That's why you went to Liverpool. I know which one you're talking about. I'm so mad. But they don't place a lot of those residential treatment centers in the greater Houston area. You know why? One, they may run away.
Mm-hmm.
Two, it's a lot of pimps and evil
Yeah.
people that know where these children are at.
Yeah.
And they go and try to pick them up at the bus stop.
Okay. See, now I know we're finna get off track and off the list of the questions I have you because I shouldn't say the name. Somebody I know works at another residential treatment center in the
Boys and Girls Harbor. That's the name.
Greater Boys and Girls Harbor. That
Yeah,
is the
I
name of
knew
that
that's
place.
what-
Yes. So
That's a really good one.
Oh yeah, they were great. But this one is in a very rural area in the Houston area. Let me just say that. And again, it made me think of what you just said. Let me get you away from main highways, bus stops, things like that. Heavy traffic. And sometimes I'll go take, like if they say, oh, I need some lunch or whatever, I can go drop it off. But it's gated, it's secured, cameras are everywhere. And so one day I said, why the hell, what's up with this? I know y'all are back off in the country and nobody really sees. And he says, well, we have a specific house. So it's a bunch of land, right? And every house has a different purpose.
Is this in Richmond?
I'll tell you out the air where it's at. It's not in Richmond, no. So every house has a different purpose. And so one house has kids that are in court that are, I guess, kind of like witness protection. They were in abusive situations, but like this may be children that are going to be testifying against people that have done very, very bad things. I'm not saying anything. So put them there and it's locked. They only transport with us around the facility. The facility has a store, school, all of these things. This house is for kids that were in abusive situations and then in turn became abusers themselves. And some of them are very, very sexual. I hate to say that, but because
let's say what it is.
Yeah, because of things that have happened to them.
Experience sexual abuse, and now they're acting out. And when you place kids that may have been sexually abused and have been acting out against other children, I've had children that dealt with this,
right?
And then you have to tell the residential treatment center or the foster homes they may be going to, like, hey, this child had these type of behaviors.
Right?
What's going on? If you have other children around them, you have to watch.
Ooh, okay. That's so now my next question. See, now I have so many questions I want to ask you, and I know we're limited on time. But so, with going back to these facilities, and again, we have it's another house that has kids that are on the spectrum, that are behaviors because of their ASD. But I feel like it's probably one of the hardest decisions that a parent has to make when they say, hey, I cannot deal with my child's behavior anymore. I have to give them over to somebody and put them somewhere where they can be monitored 24/7. They can get the medicine, they can get the treatment that they need. And unfortunately, abuse happens in these environments as well.
Abuse happens all over.
All over. So in places where if I'm a parent and I have a child with a behavior disorder or whatever, and I'm placing them in the care of people that are trained to deal with them, my expectation is that they're in good hands, right? But sometimes they're in worse hands. They're in worse situations. The abuse that I hear takes place amongst the children themselves, not even talking about the abuse that the adults that take advantage of these kids and make them feel that I love you, I care about you, I'm here to take care of you, I'm here to protect you, and they're abusing them as well.
Yeah, that's the heart of it. That's the hurt, that's the pain, that's the ugly of it. Honestly, I've seen it happen. I've rose hell for my kids. And I've had kids, the ones who was the one raising the hell. And it's hard being the one you advocating for that child, and your child is abusing other kids and hurting other kids. And then you have to isolate them. So that's why I always talk about the community. What can we do?
What can we do?
Because the system is not the best. And I want to break down the different levels of care. Okay. And let me talk about the different level of care, then I'm going to go into different type of placement.
All right.
So you have basic, moderate, specialized, intense. And I'm hearing it's a new type of intense now. This is new. Okay. So this depends on the type of care that child may need in that placement.
Okay.
So for instance, a basic child is like no special issues, friendly, may cry, you know,
Mhm.
regular stuff that we consider for children. And it's
Okay.
levels that it's you have to fill out this information. You have to I think the Youth Centers of America, which is in Arlington, Texas, they
Mhm.
make a decision what the level that child should be.
Okay.
Then you have moderate. Moderate, that child may have some health needs, may
Mhm.
have asthma and things you have to check in on, or that child may curse, or they may talk back or yell, or may be aggressive, or may have a strong emotional issue.
Mhm.
Specialized, those are the ones that's like cussing you out.
Right.
Okay. Fighting, yelling, burning, running away.
Mhm.
You know, we'll call it being AWOL.
Mhm.
Um,
Elopement.
yeah, all
Mhm.
that stuff. Sexually active.
Mhm.
Those things for specialized children, or they may have severe specialized medical needs.
Mhm.
All those things going to the point where gotta be a little bit more attention.
Right.
So then you have the intense children, which are like they burning houses down.
Oh,
They've
wow.
hurt, like severely hurting people. They may have, once again, high medical issues. I've had children that were blind or
Mhm.
deaf, things of
Mhm.
that nature.
Right.
And then the other ones is keeps getting extreme. I've had children at vegetative states. I've
Mhm.
had children that have been on attempted murder. I have kids that I had an 11-year-old with, like, they try to give them 5 different felonies, things of that nature.
Christ.
I was gonna tell this story today, but I can't because it was a big deal with the school. The school tried to suspend him without giving him a day to come back to school because he was so. I didn't know you couldn't do that until I started working that case. Like, they have to give you a time limit, like 5 days. They're like, oh, he's just suspended indefinitely.
Oh no, they can't do that.
Yeah, and one of my volunteers I had was actually she was becoming a superintendent, and she said the same thing you said. Oh,
Oh, no.
absolutely not. But they were railroading this child.
Oh no.
But going to
People don't like to hear that kids have educational rights. So when I say that, even though it is as horrible as we may say they are,
let's pin that. Let's
okay.
pin that, because I was going to touch on that too,
Okay.
with the education, surrogates, and
Okay.
things of that nature. But going to the different type of placements,
Mhm.
you have, once the children are in conservatorship care, that means they've been removed from the parents' custody.
Mhm.
They can be placed with a primary parent's custody, because they
Okay.
could be placed with a father at times too.
Right.
That's sometimes, but you have to get DNA, and that's a whole
Mhm.
thing for that. But then they could be placed with
Even if they're on
grandparent.
the birth certificate, you still have to go through DNA.
I'm about that. Like, I'm a DNA pro.
Okay.
Like, hey, I give me that DNA.
Okay.
For sure.
All right.
Mari ain't got nothing on Harris County Court. I
Okay.
promise you, he doesn't. So you have family,
Mhm.
you have fictive kin, which is like godparent. You know how
Okay.
we do in our community.
Right.
Fictive kin come from Black people.
Right.
It was like, oh, this is my auntie.
That's my auntie.
No,
Yeah.
that's your mama's
That's your
good
yes,
friend, or
yes,
somebody
yes.
in the church, things of that nature.
Okay,
So that's
I
a
did not know
fictive
that.
kid,
Okay.
not biologically related to them, but that knew them before they came into care.
Okay.
Then you have foster, which is someone they don't know at all,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have a residential treatment center. You have group homes and residential treatment centers, and then you have psychiatric centers,
Mhm.
and of course, unfortunately, juvenile detention.
Right.
So all these are different placements for kids, and that level of care. Once you hit specialized, you can't go into a foster home.
Oh.
You have to be at a RTC.
I did not know that. That is interesting.
Right. So anything above that, you have to be in a specialized treatment placement.
Okay.
Or if you're an intense, they have certain placements that are like homes, but they're like group home, but they're like around the clock nursing and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So it's certain different levels to it, how it works. So those level of care matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna get in like too much, and I get into it a lot, because you have some placement, their goal is to keep those kids levels high so they can keep getting paid. Because those levels of care had dollar amounts on it as well.
You know, that was my question.
I know.
Let me know when we're gonna get into it.
Those dollar amounts. I mean,
Mhm.
those levels of care have dollars attached to them for each
Mhm.
child, and I can't give you the exact amount right now. So let's say it's like maybe $200 a week for
Mhm.
a basic, $250 for a moderate, $320 for a specialized, and $500 plus on up for the rest of them.
Mhm.
Okay, that's each child.
Mhm. Each week.
Each week.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen placement that take in 6 children with moderate to specialized. I mean, you can become a foster. You can become a foster home that's specialized in specialized children.
Mm-hmm.
And think about how much money you're bringing in. And they have their own jobs and things of that nature. And I've seen placements that I've shut down placements. They're like, hey, this side of the house is my family. This side of the house is the kids. And the kids side of the family is horrific.
Mhm.
I mean, I apologize. The kids of the foster children
Mhm.
are is horrific. Drawers falling apart. All this money's coming into this home,
Mhm.
and none of it's going towards the children. And they want to keep the children on medication because they're on medication, they're gonna keep their level of care up. And they might not even give the children the medication. They're not taking them to therapy. They're not putting them in any specialized treatment
Let
program.
me tell you why. Because they don't give them the medication. They come to school and act a fool. We have to write it up. Us writing it up is documentation that their level may need to be upped a little bit so that they can get some more money.
Absolutely. And they would and I've had them tell me directly, hey, I know you caseworker. You too busy to come by. So guess what? I cover you. You cover me. I got your back. I got yours. Now, if I was a weak person and it had poor integrity, I was like, oh, heck yeah, got it.
Thank you.
You know, give me some breaks. I can go run some errands and things of that nature, which just happens. Y'all call them out when you see them. Y'all know some of y'all friends, co-workers, and I do that, but you're affecting that child.
Yeah.
See, and I do not play with these kids, man. They do not have, their children are innocent. They've been through enough in life. Why would we put them in another placement of some more adults to fail them?
I remember I didn't even know that was a thing until I was teaching. I'm gonna just say in Fort Bend ISD. There was a kid. It just kept getting in issues, and they were like, "Yeah, he's in foster care." I'm like, "Okay, all right." And somebody said, "All that mama wants is that check," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" I'm a newbie teacher. I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Woo.
I don't even think I was a teacher. I must have been a
when you find out the corruption that's going on, there's
now my mind is clear. Now there's nothing you can tell me about the system that would shock me as an educator because I've seen not as much as you have, but
I was about to say,
I
used to say that all the time. I would get shocked every time.
I've seen enough. Nothing would surprise me though. I would never see a situation and say, "Wow." I'll be like, "Damn."
And I can't remember if we talked about this on air before we got on, but some people they may think you're jaded or something.
Yeah.
Like, we're on when you talk about your husband.
My ex-husband,
well, your ex-husband. I like, you have to keep going. But we have feelings, we got emotions. I got to the point we talk about personally, I was going to happy hour at least about 4 times a week. And then I'm glad I had to sit back and realize when I'm teaching about substance abuse,
right?
And things, I'm like, ooh,
yeah.
I made it chill out.
Yeah.
Because me and my coworkers, we just hitting up, what's the place in the Galleria? Sake Bone. I cannot think of the name of
Raw Sushi.
Raw Sushi. Oh my goodness. As much as the money they took out my pocket.
Yeah.
But I felt like I needed it.
I would tell him, and of course, at the time, I'm a teacher. He's a caseworker. He ended up leaving after maybe 3 or 4 years because literally you cannot afford that job. It's not conducive to people with children and families. It's crazy. But I would tell him, do not tell me anything. I don't want to hear you went to court today. That's great. Hope you had a good time. I don't want to hear because it was one story he told me, and I'm just going to say it involved abuse and it involved a 2-year-old baby. And I said, hey, at this point, don't ever tell me anything else about your cases. I don't want to hear anything.
And think about it. I've had numerous media cases where people giving them kids back to those folks. To which folks you talking about? And we can't say nothing.
Right.
And I was like, because if we say something, y'all gonna want their head on the pike. That type, and these are the type of stress you have to deal with. You know how many? One of my favorite films and favorite books is The Color Purple. I had a girl, and I used to train people. Like, if you became one of my volunteers to train you, you're not a robot. Don't cry in front of these kids. Okay, you're here to keep this information. You got these information, and you share it to the court. So because if you start crying, they're gonna shut down. All right, they go like, "Is everything okay with you, Miss Ty?" So you have to be okay. And went to see a kid at this child at school. She was 15. And once again, still at school. They gave us a little room to the side.
Yeah.
Please don't. It's such a balance. The administration at school, please, one, ask for ID, identification, badge, and all those things, because the parents are not allowed to see it. If you need a court order, we should have the court order when we come in. Then can you have us a room to the side and have that child to come out of class? It's a way to say, and we'll call beforehand.
Right.
Sometimes we do pop-up visits because the pop-up visits are absolutely necessary, especially if something happened that y'all may not have purview to. But ask for identifications. Don't let everybody have access to these children. There's been some schools in HISD. I'm here to see Bobby. Oh, come on, let me show you. You didn't ask me for nothing. This is my first time at this school, and I'm like, that is crazy. And like, I got Bobby. You need to go off campus. No, but we'll pull it back. But I went to go see this child. I had a volunteer, and a white gentleman. Great volunteer, great volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
Love them kids. It was like 5 kids, and went to see her. First thing she said, "Oh, y'all here? I was just about to get in a fight." Baby girl, why you about to get in a fight? I ain't gonna try to cry here, but she was like, "Oh, like this girl called me the B word." And I was like, okay, big deal. And we said, and the volunteer, like, why does that bother you when someone call your name? Because my mama have never called me by my name. She done called me the B word all my life. And it's a trigger for her. It's trauma. And she's going into it and she's going through all this.
Mm-hmm.
And she ended up sharing that she was, you might say, triggered, we didn't want, but sexually abused by her mother's boyfriend. And all this going in, and I'm just like my volunteer right here to the right of me. And I'm just listening to her just pour everything out and listening. Like I'm taking. Usually I have my phone out or something. I'm documenting. I let them know. But I'm just it's time just to listen. And I'm like, I'm like holding my head.
Hold it up.
Okay, cool. And I'm like, all right. Well, you need something. Come by. We go visit. And I always, once again, my pillars of everything, culture, respect, communication, and consistency. That come from my relationships working with these children and families. So show them respect. Communicate my role and what I'm doing, and be consistent on what I say I'm gonna do and how I'm gonna respect them as well. And I was like, okay, make sure to come see you later. You're fine. You go back to class. Don't get in the fight.
Don't fight.
Talk to us. We'll go work it out. I look to my right. My volunteer is bawling. I'm talking about hey.
Gotta cry in the car.
And that's what it is. And when I say, but that felt like that girl all her life she had to fight.
Jeez.
All her life, she just wanted to do the right thing and be better. And when the outside world tries her anything, because she would have snapped and did that to that whatever to that girl that she may feel like is absolutely. And people don't feel like you don't know what someone's going through. You don't know someone's going through, and this is just a young 15-year-old girl, and empathy is a skill you have to build in this work. Same thing with being a teacher, and I share this one experience with a teacher or this one child. We do everything culture because I love it because this child, she was a twin and her mother put her out the home. Her mother put her out the home because it happens more than y'all know. Y'all don't need no Lifetime television. Her mother's boyfriend was attempting to approach her sexually. And she told her mom, well, like, you shouldn't be a girl and grown. You have to go now. Because
you want my man.
She told, like, I don't want your man. Your man want me. But it happens a lot, y'all. And this is a Latin Hispanic family in Northside, Houston. And she went to a school, and her teachers are the ones who made the report. And she ended up, once again, know y'all boundaries, educators, because, y'all love y'all big hearts. But like I said, y'all mandated reporters. But this educator stepped up in another way and took the child in the home when the case started. So we made her the caregiver, a fictive kin. Once again, fictive kin. She's a black woman, and this child, once again, Hispanic, had two different cultures. We get appointed to the case, and once again, this is when I'm as a guardian ad litem. And now we can talk about what type of food we like to eat and things. This young lady and this was an older black woman. She was like in her early 60s, from the South. And this girl, she was a vegan, did yoga. Two, cultures coming together. So when she moved into the house being a vegan and they cooking ham hocks and greens with everything has meat in it, she can't eat these things. Now, this person is getting paid to provide a certain type of food. So it was some conflict in the home, even though the caregiver, caregiver at the time, but the teacher loved her. But it was still some conflict that just like children have rights in school, they have rights in CPS care. And I read, especially the older kids, because she was like 17. I used to read her rights to her. All my kids, I read the rights to, even though they don't care about it, because especially if you're placing a child in a placement at 11 o'clock at night, who go sit down and read all this information? You got grown folks don't read contracts. Now, I don't read everything, but we should. But the thing was, it was in conflict there, and her volunteer was a vegan, so we were able to get everything worked out, was working best. But a guardian ad litem represent like a caseworker and attorney. We represent the best interest. An attorney ad litem, when a guardian ad litem is appointed to the case, is solely representing, well, not solely, but the main responsibility is to represent the wants of the child. Unfortunately, you had an attorney, you had a caregiver, and a caseworker that was kind of like, hey, long as she got somewhere to stay, she should be happy.
She should be grateful.
Yeah,
Because we took her out of the abusive situation. So what's she complaining about? Eat the ham hocks.
There you go. You said it right there. But as what our job is, no, these people are compensated to care for this child in the way she would like to be cared for. This is the point of it. So she ended up being moved to a different placement and the work helped her to volunteer. The attorney was, I don't know, still this lady hate me to this day. And she tried to get my volunteer removed because they had a good relationship. And she's doing what her client wants, what we believe in the best interest, but you're not doing what your client wants to do. You're doing what you feel like is best. And once again, go to courts. Don't take my word for it. Go see it for yourself. Go down there. But the thing was, she tried to get us removed in case. That wasn't going to work out. And not only that, she tried to get us removed. The girl called me one night. She was talking to the volunteer, and they said that the volunteer and the kid got too much closer relationship. They tried to make it sexual. I'm like, there's nothing like that. But y'all, people are evil in this world.
They are.
But the other teacher, this is a smart young woman. She went to the point. She called me like 2 days before court, like, Mr. Drake. And I was like, hey, I'm going to say Olivia. How you doing, Olivia? She was like, yes, I just got some questions and this and that. And I'm like, I know. I've talked to Kay. She's like, what are my rights and care? I said, I know your attorney is trying to build this. I know. I just want to be careful. Talk to your attorney. But also, do you remember that paperwork I gave you? If you can pull that paperwork, you say, I don't know where it's at. Well, go to the website. I'm going to give you the website right now. And basically where you can find your rights and care as a child. And she said, because she wanted to go to court. She wanted to come to court because another thing, if these kids ask to come to court, they're allowed to come to court for their hearing.
Wow. Okay.
Especially the older one. Now, we don't want the kids in court all the time because court is an all-day thing.
Yeah.
Headache. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to be in court. But these kids are allowed to come to court, hear their hearing, especially to talk to the judge. And I pointed to set her down. I just let her read through everything. And I said, what does that mean to you? Follow through with it. Just made time for while I was in the car going through all this great Houston traffic. And she popped up out the blue at court 2 days later.
Knowing her rights.
That's who brought her. One of her other teachers. She had such a connection with faculty. It was crazy. They loved this girl. And she went to a popular school here in Houston, too. Excuse me.
Good.
But the difference it made where she actually got her attorney removed. She got to speak to the judge. She was not only that, she was one of the kids that graduated. She ended up didn't even need the tuition waiver because she went to an Ivy League school.
Full ride.
Full ride.
Academic. Amazing. I'm going to go back to the money. I think that is the one thing, not the one thing, that's one of the things that make me so resentful for some of these people. You're good. Hold on. We pausing him? Oh, we still talking? Oh, Lord. Okay, hold on, y'all. He went off camera to go call. Okay, perfect. I'll clip it. We probably gonna have to I know I heard this. Okay. We'll we this is kind of interesting. I kind of want to say we probably need to do 2 episodes of this one. Do you mind? Or you got what you got to plan today? I'll be taking up your Sunday and I don't even be.
But still,
oh.
I mean, you were at like 50-something minutes, so you may want to kind of
end it here,
or get to a point where where you're wrapping it up because you don't want it to be too long.
No, but if I do a part 2,
then you'll do what, another hour?
Huh?
Another hour for part 2?
Probably not that.
I
know. So we're gonna finish. You can finish that. We're gonna wrap this part up, and we'll probably just come back and do a part 2. No, you good. Now I forgot the story you was telling.
If I was into it, I forgot to tell you the time a couple times.
Oh, I was talking about the money.
Get the money.
All right. So back to the money. Again, that's one of the things that make me so resentful about the people that pretend to care about these kids and want to get them in. Is like you said, they get all of this money. I remember when I first started learning about this, we had a family that had a school full of kids. They were all foster care.
Mm-hmm.
We know those people weren't doing what they're supposed to do, but they had like one of the biggest, most beautiful homes.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, oh, that's how y'all paying for that house because y'all got all these kids up in here that y'all are not
Caring for
taking care of.
appropriately.
Mm-hmm. Like giving the bare basic minimum
Yep.
to these kids. Shelter, food, water, clothing.
And a lot of that stuff could be donated. A lot of things you get for free. Because there used to be a point where when I started, they used to lace foster parents up. You got the clothing voucher. You got the living voucher. You had where we still have like a lot of toy drives and things happen. And once again, this is for the kids.
Right.
But a lot of people use it for them. I had a time where, I could go into full detail because of time. I was brand new, first year. This is when I moved over to Casa. That basically, long story, the foster parent was taking kids from my kid and giving it to her biological kids.
Wait, what?
Oh, yeah. And I thought they were lying. I was like, man, that woman is not doing that. That's crazy. I called her. She like, yeah, she got enough stuff. My kids need some things too. Once again, can't say, when they black out things on the air.
Right.
I can't say, when I say, it's been times that you want to just snap off. Like, what are you?
What are you
are
thinking?
grown. You are a whole. Are you sick?
It's a money grab though, because it's so many children that are in need of care, fostering.
That's the other thing. I did not look up the accurate statistics for 2021 and 2022. The amount of children in care. It's too many kids in care, y'all. Way too many kids in care.
Okay, now let me ask you this, and then we're gonna pause after I ask you this question because we running over, and I want to come back for a part 2.
No problem.
Does it go back to where we say how the people say sometimes y'all are removing kids that don't need to be removed from their homes? We have some overzealous caseworkers that are removing kids who don't need to be removed.
It's both.
Okay, all right.
That's the best way I can tell you. It's both.
Okay.
You got some kids and families that don't need to be removed. You have a whole lot that need to, and I wish we didn't have to. I hate when I hear, oh, you just want to remove my kids, whatever. Once again, when it made it to me, I'm not the one that removed your kids in the first place. Okay, I really would love to. That's the thing. We would love to get the kids back to you. That's how it used to be. I'm gonna talk about some other stuff in a quick second. Oh, we may save it for next time. Okay. But the thing is, the number one goal usually is reunification. Let me give these babies back to you. They are best with you. But when you work with some of these folks, and I'm like, don't pay attention to stuff you see online all the time.
Okay.
You have to, not all the time, you can, but really get into the nitty gritty. You be like, wait a minute. And I would talk about cultures. Everybody was raised differently. Some things how I was raised, other people may not, they may feel like it was abuse and neglect. I feel like it made me better. And I feel like the opposite for some other folks. It may be, they feel like this was good. I feel like that was neglect. But case in point, when you get to know what do these children need, because there's no book to be a great parent.
No, not at all.
None of that. But you see some things that I've seen people lock kids in their rooms and tie them out and, ball them while this before OnlyFans, but the Craigslist thing. I've seen where dads I've had some children who had red case files where they were not alive. I've seen where no abuse happened to 2 or 3 children, but the child with special needs received all the abuse. I had cases where it was just a bad divorce. Oh, those worst ones where the parents had just turned the children against each other. I've had where some people just outright lie. I've had where the grandparents just wanted the kids and they just lied on the parents. I've had where I can go on a list. Substance abuse is one thing where, okay, if the child tests positive, and people, okay, marijuana, okay, well, you just got to stop. But even in the duration of the case, you can stop, but can't. You may be dealing with some type of issue then. If
you can't, your baby can't even go home from the hospital with you because this is what you got going on. So now I got to get a baby to somebody else because you can't stop smoking weed.
And the thing is, and when you see some living environments, and I'm even as a guy, sometimes I used to be the white glove guy at times. I'm like, no, this does not work. And I had to put my own morals and things aside.
Mhm.
No, this is how they look at cleanliness. It's fine. Is it safe for them? Instead of looking at my expectation, what is safe for the children.
Mhm.
And I've been able to reunify kids with parents. You look on paper, they should not get their kids back. But to see the work that they're doing,
Mhm.
they did what they needed to do.
Okay, so let me ask you this. There are times, I know you said the older kids, right?
Mhm.
How often are we listening to the younger kids that y'all's goal is reunification, but those kids are like, no, it's stuff like y'all not taking what I'm saying seriously. There's bad stuff going on in here. And when y'all come to the homes, they clean up, they hire.
That's
I've
fine.
heard this, hire a cleaning lady,
Yeah.
clean the house up real good. Tell the kids, hey, you gonna say this, and you
Yeah.
better not say anything else. Scare the hell out the
But
kids.
that's why I do pop-up visits.
Mhm.
Oh, I let them pop them unannounced visits.
How often are we listening to the younger babies that can't advocate for themselves?
It depends who you're working with.
Mhm.
It's the system.
Hmm.
Because I didn't even talk about the attorney. You know how you were talking about money with
Yeah.
caregivers
Mhm.
and the foster parent? How you feel about these attorneys?
I thought they were volunteer.
Oh,
I done made you choke. I'm sorry. I thought you just said the
No,
okay.
the volunteers, the court-appointed advocate volunteers are volunteers.
Mm.
These are paid employees. These attorneys get paid every time they come to court, and
And drag it out by the hour.
No, it's not by the hours. Every time you show up to court,
Mm.
for each case. So a lot of these attorneys take a bunch of kids. Don't know them kids. Literally, I had one attorney, the same one they tried to get us removed from the case before.
Mhm.
She came to court yelling at us, y'all brought my kid to court, this isn't this. This is a different case. We're like, ma'am, this ain't your child. Oh, I got to mix it with something else. This don't look nothing like your child.
Too many cases.
You're not
Money.
even going out of business. You have a paralegal or someone from your office going out of business on them kids. And so that's why with everything culture, the series, I'm bringing these young adults who are in care of themselves
Mhm.
come in and talk. I play video games. When I'm on PlayStation with them, I had one of my kids in care on, and they have their other foster kids in. They're talking about, I don't know what my attorney looked like. My attorney never came to visit. They know their name. Never came and visited them. Never.
But collecting a check.
But you can see them in the newspaper, big dollars.
Oh,
The ones that make, because you don't make a lot of money being a family law attorney, especially if it's CPS.
Mm-hmm.
And if some of these attorneys making millions of dollars, how is that even possible?
Wow. Oh man. Okay,
And
we
if I
gotta
end
stop.
up missing after this, you know
We
what I'm
gotta
saying?
stop here because I'm shooken.
But it's for real. and it's
That's
sad.
wow.
And something I say quite often: people don't care about people. People care about the use of people,
Mm-hmm.
and that goes for our children as well.
Mm. Okay, we're gonna pin this whole conversation. We're gonna come back and do a part 2 because I have so many more questions, and I feel like you got so many more stories. You could talk, so can I though.
Because we didn't even touch on how they're privatizing the system in Harris County.
Oh, okay, yeah, we gotta come back for that. You gonna come up missing for sure.
I'm just telling-
You just telling
I
the truth.
bring people on if they just say what it is.
Oh, Lord, we both gonna come up missing. Don't get Drake. We're gonna pause right here, guys. We'll be back for a part 2 with Drake from Everything Culture. Hold tight. This podcast was made possible by producer extraordinaire D. Francis at the legendary Lab 7 Studios in Mo City, Texas.